Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everyday Prepared. Thanks for watching. So, today I wanted to talk about bartering. So, this video is going to be everything you did not want to know about bartering. Now, before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about how I decided on this topic for a video. And over the last week, in 5 different groups I'm in, 5 different people asked 5 different questions, all basically the same thing, saying, what are good items to keep for bartering? And I have the answer for that in just a minute. But before that, I just want to say, whenever I see those questions, I always ask a question of my own. I ask them, hey, what are you foreseeing needing to barter for? And so far, no one has answered that question. So now I said the one thing you need to know about bartering is, and it's a state secret, it feels like, because no one ever says this. Okay. I'm going to say it, and here it is. Stop worrying about bartering. And I say that because right now you are not yet in a position to worry about bartering. And I can already hear you guys out there going, well, you don't know who I am. You don't know what I've got. Bear with me, and you'll see where I'm going with this in just a second. So I say you're not ready, okay? For me, if you want to start storing items for barter, you need to have 3 things. First thing is a year's worth of food for you and your family, okay? 1 year of food. And that I come up with 1 year because if you remember all the old TV shows and movies where something bad was going on, their whole objective was, well, we have to have enough food to last through the winter. Okay? Which is true. You'll have to make it do through the winter. But you'll also have to make it through the spring for the soil to warm up enough so you can plant your gardens. Then you have to wait most of the way through summer to start getting a good income of crops from your garden. So if some big event happens and it happens on the first day of fall, you've got to make it through fall. You've got to make it through winter, through spring, most of the way through summer. And then you can start having food. So that's why I always say 1 year. 1 year's worth of food is a starting point. Okay. Excuse me. Now, also on top of your food, I say between 3 and 5 years worth of seeds to plant your garden. I say 3 to 5 years because honestly, for me, it's 5 years because we kill a lot of plants. We try new techniques, we try new stuff all the time, and we end up killing a lot of plants. So our gardens don't do as well as they could. If you're an excellent gardener and your crops always come up every year and do really good and you have really high yields of things, then you can probably get by with 3 years. But we want to have enough seeds to take into account that, well, this year, my green beans didn't do too good, but my tomatoes did excellent. Next year, your squash might not do too good. So when you get those down years on one of your vegetables, you want to have enough seeds to replant. Okay, so I figure about 5 years worth of seeds, and they take up no room. They're not that expensive, so make it 5 years or more. And the third thing I want you to have is access to unlimited drinking water. Okay, people say, "Oh, you can't do that." You're going to be surprised how much water you go through on a daily basis. When the tap no longer works, if you don't believe me, take your family and go camping for a weekend and just see how much water you go through. So now I say unlimited supply of drinking water. It doesn't have to be filtered water. Water coming out of the well, things here, not the cleanest water, but it's not toxic. You're not going to die from drinking it, but might just have some stuff in it. So get those 3 things lined out. Okay. Then if you want to worry about bartering, Now we'll talk about barter. And the first thing I want to talk about, I'm going to kind of split the topic in half, and that is gold and silver. Now, I don't want to keep saying gold and silver, so I'm just going to say gold from now on, but I actually mean gold and silver. So I know a lot of people will recommend, oh, get gold and silver. They have inherent value. So no matter what happens, you can always trade things for your gold. And that's not true. Gold does not have an inherent value. If everyone in your town is starving to death and there's only one cheeseburger left, it doesn't matter how much gold you have, they're not going to sell you that cheeseburger. So so keeping gold for that kind of a purpose, no, I do not like that at all. If you want to keep gold for part of your retirement plan, okay, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you if that's a good idea or a bad idea, but from a prepping perspective, I'm totally fine with it. Also, if you have gold or silver that you want to have a specific purpose for, I have no problem with that either. In fact, I know a guy who had a certain quantity of gold he keeps. He's kept it for now probably 25 years. Okay. And his whole purpose for having that gold is if something happens here and he needs to get his family out, he can, use his gold to charter a plane or charter a boat or something to get his family out of the country. That's the sole purpose of having it. He's not going to be down going, hey, let me trade you some of this gold for a cheeseburger, because when it comes down to that, how can you tell if it's real gold? How do you know if it's real silver, right? So there's going to be a lot of fake stuff out there. So I don't recommend it for that. I also had some people who like to make the point that, well, sooner or later, civilization is going to make a comeback. And so I have some gold on hand to where if I need to buy land or make big purchases like that, when civilization starts coming back, we'll have that gold on hand. That I don't really have a problem with that, but if that's something you plan on, make sure you can make it through the first part when everything goes to hell. You got to make it to where civilization tries to rebuild. So if you don't have your basics, your year's worth of food, your garden supplies, all of that, then you're not going to make it to the rebuild of society, and all that gold's not going to be any good. So that's where we are on those. Now, when I see these questions, there's three items that get recommended all the time that I just hate. The first two I'm going to kind of group together because they're kind of in the same category, and I think they're going to have the same effect. And that's alcohol and tobacco. Like, oh, keep booze, and if you think back on history, we've proven with prohibition that if people want to drink, they're going to get a drink. Now, my problem with having alcohol and tobacco for barter items is now you just open yourself up as a target. Okay, if you trade a bottle of vodka for a couple of cheeseburgers, and now this guy's out here with his buddies and they're drinking this vodka, and they decide it's time for a beer run, but they don't have any more cheeseburgers to trade with, what's to stop them from just coming and trying to take your vodka? And I know I can hear you guys too. Oh, ain't nobody gonna make it into my compound. I got all the security in the world. No, that's just ridiculous. If somebody wants in, they're coming in. If they're determined enough and skillful enough and actually plan and deliberate things, they're coming in. You're not going to stop. So, but for those things, why open yourself to that kind of predicament for no real gain? Okay. Now, the third thing I see recommended, and I have seen some pushback, seen quite a few other preppers that are like, hey, that's a stupid idea, right? Ammunition. Do not barter ammunition. Okay, I'm not going to barter something away that can be used to come back and kill my whole family and take everything I have that I've worked for. So I'm not trading any ammunition. Now, if you want some things that I recommend to have on hand for bartering that are good, number one is wheat. You know, uh, Wheat is a little bit bulky, but if you have a 5 gallon bucket of wheat, that's a lot of flour you can make out of that wheat, which turns into a lot of bread. But in order to get the bread, you've got to grind the wheat into flour. You got to mix some other stuff in with it. You've got to have enough heat from your fire or whatever you're using to cook with to cook the bread. So it's not as quite as an attractive target as a bottle of vodka or something. So I do like wheat. Also salt. There's 100 different uses for salt. If you don't know what they all are, just Google 100 uses for salt, and you're going to find things you never even imagined this salt can be used for. And it'd be very, very helpful in an emergency type situation. And the last one I like to recommend is honey. Okay, honey. You can use a little bit of honey to totally change the flavor of what you're cooking. Add some sweetness or whatever, what have you. And in these types of situations, there's a thing called um, I just lost what it was. It's appetite fatigue, I believe, is what they call it, and that comes basically from eating the same food every day. So if all you have left in your food stores is rice and beans, what happens is you start getting not hungry. That's your body saying, "Look, man, I've had enough rice, enough beans, because that's all we've had to eat for 2 weeks." And when that happens, you don't get the nutrients you need, you don't get the calories you need, and makes everything just a little bit harder. So, so stay with that. Okay, honey will let it change flavors a little bit and do all of that. Okay? So now I have one more little tidbit for you to think about, but I want to end the video with it. So for now, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any comments, concerns, questions, anything like that, drop them down below. If you have any topics that you'd like me to talk about in future videos, drop them down below. Let me know. Totally open to those. If you have any suggestions how I can make these videos better, I'm definitely open to those because I'm not very good at this. But let me know if you have any, and also if you have any friends, family, colleagues you think can benefit from these videos, please like this video, share it, subscribe, all that things. Invite them along with us, and we would definitely love to have. Okay. And again, thank you so much for watching. It's I really, really appreciate it. Now, this last little tidbit that I want to leave you guys with. When you think of bartering, I like to compare it to now. It's not an emergency situation, but let's say if you have 4 cars sitting in your driveway, okay, and they all run, they're all in good shape, nothing wrong with them, but you find another car for sale and you want to go buy that car. So when you walk in to that place, wherever it is, to buy that car, you can negotiate from a position of strength. If you don't buy that car, nothing in your life changes other than you don't have that car. So that's a very, very strong position to negotiate from. And that's where we want to be. If we're ever in a bartering situation, you want to barter from a position of strength. On the other hand, if your family, if you only have one car and you need that car to go to work, you got to get your spouse to work, you got to get the kids to school, you got to get the kids to their ball game and all this stuff, and that car dies, and now you have to go buy another car, you're bartering from a position of desperation. That's a position of weakness. And we never want to negotiate from that position because we will never, ever get a good, fair deal like that. Okay? So, something to think on as you go about your week. I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. Again, like, share, subscribe, all those good things. And until next time, take care.